Why are American houses so big? I mean, it's a question more people are asking, especially as the home prices are soaring. It's the American dream that's out of reach for millions of people. Look, back in the 1950s, the average new home was about 950 square feet. But today, that's more than 2,300 square feet. And yet we've got fewer people living in that same space than we ever had before. So how did we even get here? Now, first off, let's start with the obvious question. Why are homes in the US so big compared to the rest of the world? Now, the average size of a new house in America places it among the top 3 countries in the world for home size. That's nearly 3 times the size of an average home in the UK. And no, it's not because Americans need more space. Because we have more space. During the latter half of the 20th century, land in the US, especially in the suburbs and rural areas, it was relatively cheap and widely available. Unlike other countries with tighter borders and dense cities, we got room to spread out. So builders built bigger. It's easier, and more importantly, it sells. And it's not just the land. It's also the evolving American mindset over the decades. In the US, bigger often means better. A big house means success. It's a physical version of the American dream. But over time, that dream has completely shifted from just owning a home to owning a big one. Now, even if you don't need the space, you're taught that you need it and you want it. Historically, there's also been financial reasons. Now, building materials, they got cheaper, and construction, it got faster. Mortgage options became more accessible to a wider range of people, and the terms came longer. And suddenly, a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house just wasn't for the rich, it was for the middle class. And you've heard the term house poor. That's because they're treading water trying to keep that house. Now, people started treating homes as investments too, thinking that bigger houses are going to bring them bigger returns. So yeah, it's cultural, and it's economic, and it's historical, and that's how we got here. But here's the kicker. Just because bigger homes are common does not mean that they are practical, or even that people really need it and they actually even want it, because we're going to get into that later in this video. But before we do that, let's go back a bit and look at how the whole thing started, because American homes didn't always used to be this big. Now, right after the Second World War, the economy was booming. The GI Bill made homeownership more accessible, and builders were quickly putting houses up that meet the needs of that growing middle class. And these were basic houses, around 1,000 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. And if you were lucky, you might get a carport with some space to keep a car. But that wasn't fancy. It worked though, and it matched how people lived back then. 2 parents, couple kids. But somewhere along the line, the idea of what was a standard American home, or what it should look like and what it should be, it started to change. The key reason was a growing idea that homes are investments as well. Homes became financial assets, something that would grow in value over time. So if you had a bigger home, guess what? It was a bigger payoff later on, and people started aiming higher. Now, around the same time, the zoning laws in many areas started to change, and they favored single-family homes on larger plots of land. So this gave builders more room to play with. And in the suburbs, where the land was a lot cheaper, they could build a bigger house, and it just made sense to them. And let's not forget about how easy it was to get a mortgage during that time. I mean, lenders were handing out money left and right. Suddenly, people were buying homes that were way above what they actually needed or could realistically afford, only because they could. So even after the 2008 market crash, when things cooled down for a while, that love of bigger homes, it just didn't disappear. By 2015, the median size of a single family new home was still pushing close to 2,500 square feet. And that's more than double the size that they were in those post-World War houses from the 1950s. But things have changed, right? Mortgage rates, they've climbed. And the dream of homeownership is out of reach for millions of Americans. So why don't we see smaller, more affordable houses? Well, there's plenty of reasons. There's plenty of reasons why builders don't make small homes anymore, and it's not just about what buyers want. It's about what makes sense for the builders and their profitability. So right now, building smaller homes just doesn't make financial sense for most of them. And this is one of the biggest reasons we just don't see affordable homes that are actually being built today. And this first reason, as usual, it's all about money, the cost of materials, labor, permits, land. It's all gone way up. So if a builder can invest roughly the same amount of time and the same amount of effort into constructing either a 1,200 square foot house or a 2,400 square foot house, but sell the bigger one for a much higher price, it's obvious which one they're going to pick. Bigger homes, they bring in more money for the developer. Then you have to consider the zoning regulations. Now, a lot of cities and suburbs, the rules have changed to prevent those smaller homes. They've got restrictions on lot sizes. They got restrictions on the setback, how far in between the houses, and there's all kinds of single-family zoning laws. And all of this makes it so much harder, even illegal in some cases, to build a small, efficient house. And municipalities have to change their thinking here just to make things affordable, right? They're now making it nearly impossible to build these entry-level homes in many areas. But wait, there's more. Builders don't build homes out of their own money. They still need funding. They just aren't writing a check a lot of times. But when you have banks that are more willing to approve loans on high-value homes, builders obviously don't have much of a choice here because that's what they're allowed to get the money for. In the end, it's all about business. And lenders see more return on a $600,000 build or a $500,000 build than one that's $200,000 or $250,000. Plus, on the buyer side, people looking for smaller homes also have a tighter budget, right? Which means that there's more loan rejections. And this makes builders nervous when they're targeting a real estate market. So as a result, almost no one is building small houses anymore. It's just a fact. And here's the data. In 2023, the data shows that 8.7% of new single-family homes were under 1,400 square feet. And that's crazy when you think about how many smaller homes were built back post-World War II era. But if you compare that with the number of people living in those houses, they've actually gone down. And this creates a crazy paradox because if you have fewer people living in bigger houses, what's that all about? So in 1960, the average US household had about 3.3 people living there. But by 2023, it's closer to 2.5. Now, despite these smaller families, our homes keep getting bigger in the United States. And it really doesn't make sense when you look at the numbers. But the reason this keeps on happening is all about psychology. People still associate big houses with being successful and feeling secure. And that's what's still making the housing market go. And it's creating this housing model that doesn't really match how people are living today. The resale value myth. Now, this is a common misconception, which I want to talk about. Some people think that buying a bigger home, it means a bigger return when it comes time to sell, which is true in certain markets if you're there for over longer periods. But it's definitely not the situation, and the ideal situation has actually backfired for many people. Now think about this. The whole idea that bigger house is always better comes down to a simple fact that a larger house will likely have a total sale price higher than a smaller one in the same neighborhood. But what some people do not realize is that it doesn't always mean that you're going to make more money on your investment. You have to think about the price per square foot. And usually larger houses sell for a lower price per square foot than a smaller or an average size home in the same area. So while the total selling price of a big house, it could be higher in actual dollars, right? The value you get for each square foot might be actually less. Plus there's costs to owning a big house. You got taxes. Property taxes, your insurance, your utility bills, every single year, they're going to be higher. And think about where people are going. So if there's families and they need that bigger house, that's a demand, right? But if people are retiring and moving out of that big house, that is not a demand, and people are looking to downsize, you got to think about where you are. So if your house is much bigger or much more expensive than all the other houses in your neighborhood, it might not go up in value as much as you actually thought you were going to get. The prices of more typical houses around you can also hold the price down. Now, fewer people who can actually afford to buy some of these larger or more expensive homes, this means that your pool of potential buyers, guess what? It's smaller. So when you decide to sell, which could lead to your house sitting on the market a little bit longer if your house is not the one that's in demand. So it's clear that America's obsession with big houses didn't happen just right overnight. It's happened over decades and layer by layer by layer. But today, more people are realizing that more space doesn't always equate to a better lifestyle. Simple, right? We have more square footage per person than our parents did, and more than our grandparents ever did. Yet many homeowners still feel financially strapped and stressed and overwhelmed by this upkeep and this stress of simply not being happy as they expected they would be. So that's the paradox that we're left with. Now, as someone who's been in real estate for over 35 years, I've walked in through countless 4,000 square foot homes where only 2 people live. And I've seen young families who are priced completely out of neighborhoods that they grew up in. Not because there's no land or labor, but because everything is being built so big and more expensive than they can actually afford. So the truth is, we don't always need more space. We need better use of that space. So whether you're a buyer or a seller or someone who's looking to try to make sense of today's market and their housing market wherever you are, I hope this video gave you some perspective on what's going on. If it did, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that share button with somebody you know who you can need to hear that message, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. My name is Jerry with Jerry Pincus Real Estate Experts. If you're thinking about buying or selling property here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or anywhere else in the United States, our team can hook you up with that local expert. Pick up the phone, give us a call at 843-839-9870. My real estate team is here to help you find your hidden gem and to avoid those pitfalls that are costly. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, hope you're having a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video.